Alright, as I'm sure you're all aware by now, Hulk Hogan passed away last week. I would like to honour his career by giving you a special Ring of the Hawk episode. Yeah, it technically breaks my own rules of 30 or less matches, but not by much, so shush, or I'll smack you one. I will try my best with this one, but my advice would be download it. But please give it a comment, share and like just to help in the short term, as we watch back Hogan's final WWE run and shove him a final grade. Today's video is also a Patreon request by up-and-coming wrestling, wait for it, legend Daryl. If you want to make the Hawk talk, sign up today. And we may as well bring back the old shtick while I'm at it. If you know a wrestler who could do the J-O-B to the H-A-W-K any night, any day, ha ha! Shove their name down in the comments, Jack! Alright, it's Hogan's final WWE spell. Will it make Bubba the Love Sponge yell? Since the WCW closed its doors, Hulk had wrestled just the two matches, one against Mr. Perfect for the XWF and a second at a random house show against Rikishi. The NWO joined the WWF with Vince McMahon determined to inject a lethal poison into his own company. What a dumbass. They debut at No Way Out. Match 1 Raw, 3-on-2 handicap match. The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin take on the NWO. Hogan, Hall and Nash. How much star power would you like in your main event? All of it. The one who looks like Elvis and The Rock will start. It's all going well when Hogan tags in against The Rock. He hits his old Axe Bomber clothesline from his days in Japan. He isn't done and hits a back suplex, which for some reason I wasn't expecting. Scott Hall back in. We don't get to see Hogan and Austin fighting for a while, two icons of a generation, but we do eventually get it with Hogan hitting a scoop slam and a choke. That's it for now. Hogan returns to the match as cocky as ever, and he almost regrets that with The Rock kipping up, but Kevin Nash takes him out for the Hulkster. The match breaks down. Hogan hits the big boot and the leg drop, and he wins the match. Hall and Nash wrestled more than Hulk here. The crowd was loud, and Hogan gets a big win on his re-debut. It's a C. Match 2, WrestleMania X8. Man, why did this match not go on the show last? Hogan gets a huge face pop, which somehow sounds louder than his opponent's, The Rock. It takes a while to start as both guys soak up the crowd. Hogan lands the first shove down and the crowd love that one. Hogan barges him down again and flexes with happiness. He lands the Axe Bomber clothesline for another crowd eruption. The Rock finally floors him back down to loud boos. We get a shoving battle now. The Rock tries to punch Hulk out the ring, which he can't quite manage. Nothing happens on the outside. Back in the ring, Hulk fights off the Rock bottom and Hollywood starts putting his elbow to good use. It's funny watching this bat. The Hulk looks a far bigger roider than the Rock. Anyway, Rocky hits a sort of spear and mounted punches to more boos. Hulk's back up, quickly hitting a back suplex for a 2. He goes for an ab stretch now, which doesn't last as he transitions into a roll-up for a 2. Hogan desperately tries to be a heel, scratching at the Rock, which just isn't working. He tries biting too, but this crowd refused to turn against the Hulkster. Hogan now hits something between a choke slam and a sidewalk slam. He really is pulling out all the stops here. The Rock desperately smacks him back, but he can't get going as Hulk launches him out of the ring. Hogan drops him across the barrier, but then he gets distracted, taking the announce table apart. The ref has to stop Rocky from cheating with a steel chair. We get back to the ring, but there's quickly a ref bump. The Rock hits a spine buster for a double down. Rocky puts on the sharpshooter and the Hulk taps out, but there's no ref. Hogan smacks him in the slash zone to loud cheers and the Hulk steals the Rock bottom, just a 2 count. Hogan uses his weightlifting belt as a weapon for a bit until the Rock hits a DDT. Rocky uses the belt too as Jim Ross desperately tries to condone his actions. The Rock hits the Rock bottom. Hogan kicks out the pin and he starts shaking and going berserk. Hogan hits the big boot and the leg drop. Everybody is shocked that the Rock can kick out of that. Hogan hits another big boot but misses his second leg drop. The Rock hits the Rock bottom to more loud boos. No cover is made. Instead, the Rock hits another Rock bottom. The People's Elbow will be the finish for this match. The story isn't quite over though because they come face to face again, but this time Hogan shows the Rock respect and Hogan turns face. The NWO try to beat him down, but the Rock and Hogan stand tall. Wow, that match was electric. It shows when you have this sort of star power and fan reaction you don't have to do a hell of a lot. And despite everything, Hogan puts the young lion over. It's an A from the Hall. Match 3, Raw Tag Match. Hall and Nash take on Hogan, who looks slightly generic here, although he's not quite the fun V Hogan from WCW, and he teams with The Rock. Hogan starts out with Scott Hall. Hogan smacks him down and hits a scoop slam. In the corner, he gives Hall 9 shots and some teeth to the forehead. Hogan tags out. Bad choice because The Rock is isolated forever. Hogan really feels like the star of the show as he's tagged back in with Hall. The camera pretty much misses the big boot. Hogan also hits the leg drop, but Nash pulls Hall out of the ring. The NWO dump in their nappies with fear and get counted out. Not that much to say, his style doesn't seem to massively change heel or face. I get why they did it, the people just didn't want to boo Hulk at this time, it's a D. Match 4, 3-on-2 handicap, Hollywood, Hulk Hogan and The Rock team up to take on the NWO, now featuring X-Pac. Hogan has no qualms about beating up his old friends, they have none of doing it back to him. X-Pac is about to cheat with nunchucks when the big red machine marches out and the match just kinda ends via DQ. Hogan looks very dumb here, raising his team's arms, but then gets confused to hear that they have lost for Kane's interference. It's an S. Before the next match, we get one of my favourite WWE promos of all time. Hogan doesn't really do anything though, it's more The Rock being funny and Kane stealing their catchphrases. Match 5, SmackDown, 6-man tag, Hollywood Hulk Hogan teams up with The Rock and Kane to take on the NWO. Hogan isn't involved for ages, but he does get the tag from The Rock. He double clotheslines the NWO and throws X-Pac out the ring. Scott Hall looks dizzier than usual as Hogan hits the big boot and the leg drop. Kevin Nash has to break at the pin. Nash is in full control now and he hits a side slam for a 2. X-Pac hits chops and kicks in the corner. Hall almost puts Hogan to sleep, but Hogan backdrops him and tags Kane. He wins soon after with a chokeslam to X-Pac. Hogan probably did the least in this one, so it's a D. Match 6, SmackDown Tag Match. Chris Jericho teams up with Kurt Angle to face Hollywood Hulk Hogan and the Game Triple H. The story here is that the Game and Hogan will be meeting for the title soon. Despite that, they seem to be partners that do get on, and Hogan is tagged in with Kurt Angle. Hogan shoves him down and Kurt dumps in his thong with fear and tags Y2J. Jericho steals some Hogan taunts. Hogan doesn't look impressed. Hulk starts crushing him with a test of strength, which Kurt breaks up. Hogan double clotheslines them both. Jericho blocks his next move in the corner but can't dive as Hogan throws him. The tag is made back to Triple H. Hogan and Triple H start having a fallout which costs Triple H. They do manage to get it together again and Hogan's back in. He gives Angle and Jericho a meeting of the minds. It's almost game over with Hogan hitting a big boot to Angle, but Jericho breaks up the leg drop. And he sends Hogan into the steps. Y2J drops the referee but he's still unable to land a chair shot. The crowd chant Hogan as the Game is beaten down 2-on-1. Hogan returns and saves Triple H from a chair shot. He has the chair and apparently drills his own partner by mistake. Edge saves Hogan from a chair shot as they brawl away into the crowd. Hollywood starts hulking up as Jericho cries. Hogan lands the big boot and the leg drop. He turns around into one of the lamest chair shots of all time from Triple H. The match just ends without a winner. I still enjoyed it, minus the lame chair shot, it's a C. Match 7, Backlash, undisputed title match, the challenger Hollywood Hulk Hogan versus Triple H. Why is this match 22 minutes? Who thought this would be a good idea? I'd love to tell you that it surprised me, but it's one of the slowest clashes of all time. You just can't help but wait for this one to end. It doesn't help that the storyline going into this isn't that interesting. Hogan eventually hits a back body drop, sadly the most exciting move so far. I drift off for a bit longer and woke up to see Hogan hitting the Game with a suplex on the outside. Noticeably, this crowd are not fully behind Hogan even though Triple H is a heel. Or maybe he's a tweener, I don't know. Hogan can't catch a break, he's cheered as a heel and booed as a face. Maybe he should be the damn tweener. Back in the ring and Hogan almost wins with a roll-up. Randomly, Hogan hits a diamond cutter in this match. The Hulkster ends up hurting his leg and that's where the match turns. Which would normally work, except we've already been plodding around in slow motion for 10 minutes at this point. We finally reached the closing stages. Hogan has it won with a big boot and the leg drop. The referee is dragged out of the ring by Jericho. Jericho whacks Hogan in his bald head with the chair, but the referee just won't wake up. Triple H doesn't want to win that way anyway, and he takes out Jericho and gives Hulk time to recover. Hogan does a long drawn-out Hulk up, which is actually the first time seeing that in this run. He hits another big boot, but misses his leg drop. The Game hits the pedigree. The referee has woken up now, but The Undertaker takes out the ref. Taker hits Triple H with the chair and he pulls Hogan into the cover. Hogan refuses to take the win that way. He smashes The Undertaker out the ring and hits the leg drop to Triple H. Hogan wins the undisputed title. The Game grits his teeth in his face, but then shakes hands. Wow, kind of a tainted victory. The match was boring, not sure if it's Hogan's fault, it just wasn't a good pairing. It's a C for a big title win. Match 8, Raw, non-title. William Regal versus Hulk Hogan. Okay. Regal wants to treat Hogan to a cup of tea. Hogan sprays into Regal's face and destroys his little tea party. We finally arrive at the ring, but within seconds their dead man jumps Hogan. Undertaker leaves him laying and is presumably Hogan's next challenger. It's a D. Or not. Match 9, SmackDown, undisputed title. Chris Jericho the challenger for Hogan's belt. Random side note, but for me this is Jericho's best look around this time. It starts out with Hogan shoving Jericho over a couple of times and Y2J coming close to tears on the outside. It continues going badly for Jericho. Y2J resorts to grabbing an eyelash and hits a back suplex. Jericho once again can't stop stealing Hogan's taunt. Hulk dodges an elbow drop and comes back with smacks. Jericho takes too long on a dive and Hogan throws him off the top. He tries 10 punches, but Jericho smacks him in the slash zone. If that happens much more, Bubba the Love Sponge's wife isn't going to be happy. We head outside where Jericho shoves Hogan into the pole when he hits a top rope axe smash to the back. We come back to the ring with Jericho crushing Hogan's throat on the ropes. Jericho eventually misses a squash against the ropes and Hogan makes a comeback of elbow drops. He misses one and Jericho hits a bulldog and the lion salt. Triple H miserably walks to the ring. He doesn't actually do anything, but he buys Hogan time. Jericho almost beats him with a DDT. Hogan is looking very weak in this match. Hogan's face finally starts shaking like a chihuahua on crack as he hawks up. Hogan hits the big boot, but Jericho counters the leg drop into the walls of Jericho. Hogan makes the ropes, which makes Y2J snap. He grabs a steel chair and smashes Hogan in the back. Now The Undertaker is here, or at least his music is here. That distracts Chris Jericho and Hogan rolls up Jericho for the win. Wow, it's almost like the opposite of how it would have gone down in WCW. Well, I mean, Jericho wouldn't have been beating Hogan, but if it was going to happen, it would have been something like this. This title reign is looking like a very weak reign. I enjoyed the match though, it's a C. Match 10, SmackDown Tag, Kurt Angle and Chris Jericho vs Edge and Hulk Hogan. Hogan has an easy time starting with Angle. Jericho tries to break up a pin and elbow drops his own partner. Hogan drops more elbows on Kurt. He tags out. Edge is pretty useless, but it all changes when Hogan gets back in. He double clotheslines his opponent and big boots Kurt Angle out of the ring. He hulks up on Jericho and hits another big boot. The leg drop connects, but Angle is there to drag the referee out of the ring. Jericho smacks Hogan in the slash zone and locks in the walls of Jericho. Then Triple H just wanders out and starts hitting everybody with a sledgehammer. Can't argue with that, not much to say, it's a D. Match 11, Raw, Undisputed Title, Street Fight. The challenger is Ric Flair for Hogan's belt. This is the final singles match between these two, although they would meet in TNA tag matches. Hogan has a Hulkamania bike. I wonder where that thing is now. Flair looks noticeably healthy at this point in his life. 5 years later and he'd look like a burnt tomato. Flair loses his cool quickly and tries to introduce a steel chair. The ref stops him and we get a shove off between Nate and Mini Nate. Hogan hits 10 punches in the corner and causes the famous Flair bump. The crowd are loving this match. Hogan sends Flair upside down before he grabs an eyelash. He tries to fly, but Hogan stops him and throws him across the ring. Hogan starts choking Flair. The Nature Boy slaps his nutsack to get him off. Flair starts pounding on him with fists of fury. Hogan makes a comeback on the outside, sending Flair into the steps. We return to the ring with a bat body drop. Again, Flair grabs an eyelash and he chops Hogan down, which somehow gets a 2 count. Flair tries a knee drop, which Hogan somehow blocks and he puts on a figure 4. This is an image you don't see often. Ric Flair makes the ropes anyway. Hogan suplexes Flair back into the ring for a 2. Hogan now misses an elbow drop and we're back to a bit of a stalemate. Flair keeps hitting chops, which just seems to anger the Hulkster, who hulks up. Flair's in trouble now. The big boot connects and the leg drop too. Suddenly, X-Pac breaks at the pin. I forgot this was a no DQ match. He deals with the X-Pac, but Big Show is here too. Bradshaw gets rid of the Big Show. Now Stone Cold Steve Austin is here. He gives Ric Flair a stunner. Hogan hits another leg drop and this time no one saves Ric Flair. It's over. This was very paint by numbers and overbooked, but somehow it felt really good. I'll give this one a B. Match 12, Judgment Day 02, Undisputed title match. The challenger is Biker Taker versus the champion Hollywood Hulk Hogan. These two do not like each other very much due to the way that Taker beat him in 1991 for the title. Hogan had claimed that Taker spiked him with a tombstone, when he never. Taker quickly starts out of belt shots. Hogan manages to get the belt back and does the same to the dead man. Hogan hits a bat body drop, which the dead man no-sells, but Hogan clotheslines him out of the ring, causing Hogan to rip open his shirt of happiness. The Hulkster now reverses an Irish whip on the outside. Taker hits the steps. He does turn it around back in the ring, but he fails on an old school, and Hogan throws him off the top with a middle rope suplex for a 2. The dead man finally hits a chop block, and he goes to work on Hogan's leg. Hogan fights out of a leg lock with his free leg, smashing the dead man's neck. Hollywood hits the big boot, but Taker dodges the leg drop and locks on a half Boston. Hogan makes the bottom rope. He then dodges an Undertaker big boot, but he can't do anything, and the Taker hits one of the weakest choke slams of all time. This causes Hogan to hawk up. What happened next surprised me. Hogan hits the big boot and the leg drop with the Taker kicking out at 2. One of the best protected finishers of all time. Taker hits the running DDT now for a 2. Vince McMahon comes waddling out. This distracts the referee and Hogan big boots a chair into Taker's face and hits the leg drop. Vince takes the referee. Hogan weakly brings Vince into the ring and smacks him one. He also hits the leg drop. More chaos, and The Undertaker hits Hogan with the chair. The dead man now hits a better chokeslam this time, and that's all she wrote. Well, that wasn't a very good title reign. Good to see Hogan again as a star attraction, but none of these matches were anything to write home about. It's a D, didn't think much of this one. Match 13, SmackDown Battle Royal for the #1 contendership for the Undisputed title. I barely saw the Hulkster until he starts fighting with Angle. For some reason, Christian tries to stop that happening, and he pays for that when the Hulkster throws Christian out of the ring. The ring starts to clear, and Hogan is in the final four. It's yet another less push test match, where they aren't fully on board, but they want him to look good. Hogan starts hawking up, and he hits the big boot to Jericho and Test. The Canadians are both eliminated. It's Triple H and Hogan once again. Hogan rips his shirt open, which was bad timing as the game jumps him. Triple H dodges a big boot and clotheslines Hogan with both guys falling out the ring, and we get a draw situation to be settled later in the same night. Just the 2 eliminations, but also technically a win, so it's a C from the Hawk. Match 14, #1 contendership match, Hulk Hogan vs Triple H. Fortunately, this one will not go for 22 minutes like last time. Really boring still. Hogan fights off the pedigree of a bat body drop and the leg drop connects. For the second time in this video, somebody kicks out the leg drop cleanly. Hogan is a dumbass and thinks he's won. Triple H pedigrees him straight away, and that's pretty much the match. It's an S. Please can these two never fight again. Match 15, King of the Ring 02, singles match, Hollywood Hulk Hogan vs Kurt Angle. This is just kind of a special attraction match with no real consequences. Hogan overpowers Kurt quickly and spanks himself with happiness. This crowd are firmly behind the Hulkster. Hogan barges Kurt down, and it's all been one-way traffic so far. Kurt comes back to the ring, hitting a clothesline. Hogan sidesteps him out of the ring and hits a crazy flip down. I'm just kidding. Not much happens and we're back in the ring. Hogan bangs Angle's face into the corner 9 times and a knockout punch for number 10. Kurt starts getting desperate and kicks Hogan in his slash zone. The match looks a little bit scrappy, so Kurt starts hitting suplexes to try and improve the quality. Hogan slips out of one and hits a scoop slam. Angle isn't hurt and locks on a sleeper for ages. Hogan tries his own but gets back suplexed away. The Angle slam connects for a 2. Hogan now hawks up and hits the big boot. He doesn't do the leg drop because instead he removes Kurt Angle's wig. Kurt considers leaving with embarrassment. Now he should be counted out here but isn't for some reason. Hogan puts the wig on his head, and to be honest he's a guy who could do with one. Pretty funny though. Angle tries to rush him with a steel chair but it hits the ropes, goes back into his own face. Hogan hits the big boot and tries a leg drop, which Kurt transitions into the ankle lock. Hogan makes the ropes, but the ref doesn't break the hold. The crowd desperately chant for the Hulkster as he rolls over the move, but Kurt keeps holding onto his ankle. The ref is a dick and refuses to break the hold. Hogan finally taps out. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the first time he's ever tapped out in the WWE. You know what, I enjoyed this one, and it was better than any of his title matches. Plenty of personality here, but was Hogan scared of taking a German suplex? It's a B from the Hawk. Match 16, SmackDown singles match, Hollywood Hulk Hogan vs Chris Jericho. We get a decent match out of these two. What surprises me the most is how popular Hogan still is despite his questionable booking. Hogan's still selling his ankle from the ankle match. Despite that, he kicks out the lion salt. He hits the big boot, causing Jericho to spill out the ring, fetching a steel chair. Hogan sort of blocks the first shot with a boot, but Jericho just whacks him in the head for a DQ finish. Jericho has plans to inflict more damage, but instead his own music plays and a man makes his way out dressed as him. This is the returning Edge man, and this would be the start of a new period of Hogan in the WWE, and a bit of boost that Edge's career needed. This match was a C. Match 17, WWE Tag Title match. The challenge are Edge and Hogan, who brings back his Real American theme music. Proud Canadian Edge looks proud to hold his country's flag. The champions are Billy and Chuck. The Hulkster starts with Chuck. He powers him away and poses like a constipated swan. Chuck starts hitting strep smacks, which seems to be getting the job done. He hits a scoop slam but gets cocky and doesn't realise that the Hulk is back up. Hulkster smacks him back down and hits 2 elbow drops followed by a boot across the face, which gets a laugh from the crowd. Billy Gunn is in. Edge and Hogan pinball him back and forth, and the Edge man has the tag. Hogan isn't involved for ages whilst Edge gets ganged up on. Finally, Hogan gets the tag. He gives Billy and Chuck a meeting of the minds. He hits a big boot to Billy and then he runs up for the leg drop, but Palumbo hits Hogan with a super kick for a 2. Hogan manages to smack them both back down and tags Edge. Rico gets involved and Hogan isn't having any of that. He drops Rico on his nutsack on the crowd barrier. Palumbo ends up in a 2-on-1. Edge and Hogan hit double big boots and double leg drops. That's the 3. Really fun, feel-good match and a second Ring of the Hawk title win. It's a B from the Hawk. The Edge man happily celebrates to Real America. Match 18, tag title rematch. The champions, Edge and Hollywood Hulk Hogan vs Billy and Chuck. Edge is battered almost straight away as the crowd roar on Hogan. It's a 7-minute match where Hogan is only tagged in the once. The crowd don't seem to care. Chuck and Billy both get big boots. Rico stops the leg drop, but that doesn't help as Edge spears him off the apron. Billy almost manages to steal one, hitting the Famouser to Hogan, but just the two. Hulk starts shaking with anger. Billy Gunn's selling at the finger point is funny. Hogan gives him another big boot, and this time the leg drop won't get interrupted thanks to Edge. Pretty simple match for the champions, it's a D. Match 19, SmackDown 6-man tag. Hulk Hogan and Edge team up with Rikishi, the Tribal Cheeks, to take on the Un-Americans, Lance Storm, Test and Christian. Once again, Edge spends most of this match in peril, whilst the chants for Hogan ring through the building. I wonder if Hogan was thinking this whole time, great, my partner is basically a jobber. Just kidding, but it feels a bit like that sometimes. Edge makes the tag to the Hulkster. The match quickly breaks down and Storm hits a super kick for a 2 count. Hulk starts hulking up and Lance Storm can't do a thing. Edge is tagged in and they all attack Storm in the corner. Hogan hits a big boot to Test, but Christian breaks up the leg drop with an inverted DDT. Everybody hits their big moves, with the execution getting the 3. Really nothing to say, it's an S. Match 20, Vengeance 2002 tag title match. The challengers, Lance Storm and Christian versus the champions, Edge. Man, it's so awkward having Edge involved in all these anti-American angles, and of course he teams up with Hogan. Wow, rare treat, Hogan will start this one with Christian. Christian is sent out the ring straight away. He returns to the ring with Storm taking a cheap shot. They team up on Hogan, hit a suplex, which Hogan no-sells and double clotheslines them. Edge has the tag and he gets beaten up for a while. Hogan comes in with punches and a big boot to Storm. Christian manages to duck a boot and hits the inverted DDT. Hogan kicks out with authority. Christian's weak-ass punches fire Hogan up. Hogan hits the big boot and the leg drop, but Storm breaks up the pin. Christian grabs Hogan's eyelash and Storm drops him across the ropes. On the outside, Lance Storm hits a super kick to Hogan. Hogan struggles to hang in there, but just about manages it and tags Edge. Storm dodges his spear and this is a ref bump. Edge has it won with the execution, but no ref. Test appears and he sends Hogan into the ring pole. He hits the big boot on Edge, but surprisingly it's not over. Rikishi gets rid of Test. What a shirt that is, I can't imagine that sold too many. Christian grabs the ref as Chris Jericho is the next person to interfere, decking Edge with a belt. That's how it ends. Not gonna lie, Hogan looked far from the main event here, he was just another guy. I liked the match, but his performance was not very interesting, it's an S. Match 21, SmackDown tag title match. The Un-Americans defend their belts against Hogan and The Rock this time. Not sure how the Canadians are getting out of this one with the belts. Hogan's just useless in this match. The entire thing is basically a 3-on-1 mugging of The Rock with Hogan unable to do a thing. Finally the tag is made, but it doesn't feel any different to any of the last few matches. The Un-Americans double suplex Hogan and The Rock is back. Christian hits the inverted DDT and Hogan kicks out of authority. Hulk hulks up, blah blah, big boot, something about a leg drop. We would have new tag team champions except the fact that Brock Lesnar randomly breaks the pin up and hits the F5 to Hogan. I'm actually surprised he took that move, it's a D. Match 22, SmackDown singles match, Kurt Angle vs Hulk Hogan. Hopefully we get another decent match. We start with Angle mat wrestling with a Hulkster and he just cannot compete. They trade arm holds. Hogan blocks a hip toss and screams no way before sending Angle over and out of the ring. Angle is sent into the post. Kurt turns it around in the ring and hits a suplex for a 2. Never seen so many punches in a Kurt Angle match. Angle grabs an eyelash now and gets a 2 off a back suplex. Every time Hogan's hit with something it's a back suplex, Hogan has definitely refused to take a German suplex. Hogan pops up and back body drops Angle. Hogan drops 3 elbows for a 2 count. He tries the big boot, which is blocked, and Kurt gets the ankle lock on. This time, Hogan kicks him away and hits the big boot. Hogan's moving in slow motion, so Kurt Angle avoids the leg drop and hits an ankle slam for a 2. Kurt once again has the ankle lock on. Again, Hogan kicks him away, but this causes a ref bump. Kurt grabs a chair. Hogan kicks it into his face. The leg drop connects, but there's no referee. Brock Lesnar is back. Kurt hits Hogan with the chair, but for once in his life, the ref cashes Kurt in the act and Hogan beats Angle on a DQ. Kurt definitely pulls the best matches out of him, but for God's sake Hogan, take a damn German. It's a C. Lesnar once again hits the F5 to Hogan. Match 23, SmackDown #1 contendership match, Brock Lesnar vs Hulk Hogan. I have no idea what to expect here. Well, unlike most matches, it's Lesnar overpowering Hogan to start out. But Hogan isn't hurt, and he comes back with punches. He dodges Lesnar in the corner and hits a clothesline. Hogan drops 2 elbows and face washes Lesnar. Brock dumps in his nappy of confusion as Hogan sends him from the ring. Lesnar returns to the match, dragging Hogan's nutsack into the ring pole. Brock starts hitting elbow drops of his own. Lesnar then gets distracted, destructing the announce table. Back in the ring and Hogan tries 10 punches in the corner. Brock isn't having that though and he powerbombs Hogan. Probably the most impactful move of this entire run. Somehow that doesn't finish off the Hulkster. He hulks up and hits the big boot. Lesnar straight back up though, almost hitting an F5. Hogan once again hits the big boot and nails the leg drop. Brock still kicks out with authority. Maybe the leg drop wasn't as well protected as I had believed. Hogan does another big boot and tries another leg drop. Paul Heyman grabs Hulk's leg. Brock Lesnar hits the F5. No pin is made because Brock is too busy gritting his teeth gorming out. Instead of making a pin, Brock puts on a bear hug. Strange red liquid pours out of the Hulkster's mouth. Heyman keeps screaming, "You're going to kill him." The ref drops his arm 3 times and Hogan has lost, but he didn't tap out, he was knocked out. Have to say, Hogan made Brock Lesnar look like a real star monster here with his selling, so it's a B. Brock is a massive dick though, and he brutally attacks Hogan with a chair. This is used to write Hogan off telly for a few months. Match 24, No Way Out 2003. This is interesting, it's the often forgotten rematch between Hollywood Rock and Hulk Hogan. Hogan is cheered above The Rock once again, but that's the way it's supposed to be this time with The Rock as a clear heel. Surprisingly, The Rock hits a rock bottom almost straight away. Hogan kicks out, but Taz on commentary can't help but keep pointing out how he thought the move was botched. Didn't look that bad to my Hawkeye. The Rock does his DDT and kip up. Now this guy's full of himself. Well, this is a bit different. We get a chair battle, which again, The Rock seems to win. Rocky hits the spinebuster, followed by a people's elbow. The Rock randomly delivers a second elbow, and he just seems like he's screwing around here. Hogan quietens him down with the big boot and the leg drop. As Hogan makes the pin, the lights go out. They come back on and the ref has been bumped. Everybody's favourite Mr. McMahon walks out. Hogan angrily points at him. The Rock bashes Hogan with the steel chair. Michael Cole is having a bad moment on commentary and he's confused about how the chair even got in the ring even though it's been there most of the match. The Rock nails the rock bottom and the ref wakes straight back up and counts to 3. It was an entertaining enough match with lots of overbooking to further Hogan's next feud. It's a C. Match 25, WrestleMania Street Fight, Hulk Hogan vs Vince McMahon. If Hogan loses, he's got to retire. Vince gets in Hogan's face straight away, so he spears him down. Hogan keeps going with a clothesline and punches. This looks like it won't last long. Vince manages a block in the corner and hits his own clothesline. McMahon desperately beats on Hogan in the corner. This crowd sound annoyed. In this Hawk's opinion, this is all a bit silly. Vince isn't supposed to be a wrestler. Why is he winning against a wrestling legend without any help? Vince starts working on Hogan's arm. He has Hogan on his knees, looking pathetic. This goes on forever. Hogan fights up due to the Hulkamaniacs, but he's quickly thrown out of the ring. Vince McMahon might be one of the biggest roiders of all time. Yeah, try telling that to the Welsh roider. Vince misses a steel chair shot and Hogan drills McMahon. This steel chair beating goes on for a while. Why a non-wrestler is able to take this beating is beyond the Hawk. McMahon ducks and Hogan smashes the Spanish announce team member with a chair. McMahon's turn to use the chair on Hogan. A ladder gets set up and Vince lays Hogan across the desk using a monitor. Vince climbs up the ladder and eventually puts Hogan through the table with a leg drop. Eventually Vince gets a 2 in the ring. I can't believe Hogan agreed to the booking of this match. A man who was the undisputed champion a year earlier has spent most of his match on his ass. Hollywood even has to resort to a low blow. Then Roddy Piper randomly returns. Piper hits Hogan with a pipe. Hogan still kicks out the pin. Vince punishes the referee for that. Vince hits another pipe shot and a leg drop for a 2 from the new ref. This causes Hulk to start hulking up. He of course hits the big boot and 3 leg drops for the win. Really hated this match. Hogan was useless and could barely manage a thing against a non-wrestler. It's a D. Props for going through the table though. It's that time in the video where enter Mr. America. Hogan donned a mask and forever Vince McMahon accused him of being Hulk Hogan, brother. Match 26, Judgment Day 2003, Roddy Piper vs Mr. America. Hogan brings out Zach Gowen as a massive signing from TNA Wrestling. Piper quickly rains down with stomps. Sean O'Haire takes cheap shots on the outside. Not sure why the ref is okay with Hogan spending 50% of the match fighting Sean O'Haire. Piper belts Hogan. Hogan snatches it back and lands his own shots. The commentary team make fun of Piper's skin colour. He looked pretty normal to me. What, because he doesn't go on sunbeds every day and get skin cancer? Haha, what a moron. Hogan is about to win, but as usual, Vince limps out. With the ref distracted, Piper hits a smash to the slash zone. Sean O'Haire's in the ring. He tries a pipe shot but decks his own guy. Hogan hits the big boot and the leg drop with Zach Gowen preventing Vince McMahon from interfering. It's over. This match wasn't good. It's an S. Match 27, SmackDown, Lie Detector vs Piper's Job match. Mr. America vs Sean O'Haire, who makes the girls care. So it's basically a reverse of last match. Piper keeps getting involved from the outside. At least it's good to see Sean O'Haire in the ring. Sean keeps kicking Hogan down, it's pure dominance. Hogan fights out of a sleeper hold, but again O'Haire kicks down Mr. America for a 2. He hulks up and hits the big boot and the leg drop. Piper saves the pin. Somehow the ref doesn't see it. Then Vince McMahon once again walks out with a herd of police officers. He's actually not here for Hogan, he's here to have Zach Gowen arrested. Hogan's distracted and he gets counted out. He wasn't exactly moving quickly to get back to the ring. Hogan must now take part in a lie detector test to see if he is Mr. America or Hulk Hogan. Not bad, it's a C. In case you were wondering though, Mr. America would pass the lie detector test, much to Mr. McMahon's chagrin. Match 28, SmackDown 6-man tag, Kurt Angle, Mr. America and Brock Lesnar versus the world's greatest tag team and The Big Show. Given their history, I'm actually surprised about the lack of The Big Show ender on this run. Mr. America has tagged in with Shelton Benjamin. He clotheslines and smacks everybody. He does nothing else and tags Lesnar, but they do hit a double clothesline together. He actually returns against Charlie Haas and hits a back suplex. It feels like the biggest move for ages. Lesnar is tagged back in again. With everybody else down, Mr. America and The Big Show finally do come face to face. It's just a bunch of slow motion smacks. Big Show dodges a medium boot as the match has completely broken down. Angle and Lesnar hit stereo finishers to the world's greatest tag team. Big Show gets rid of them with a double chokeslam and now Mr. America is back. Hogan hits a big boot, but Mr. McMahon walks out screaming no. I felt the same way. He has Zach Gowen hostage. Hogan is distracted and Big Show is able to hit the chokeslam for the 3. Wow, Hogan was actually a bit of a jobber at the tail end of his career. A D. After this, Hogan revealed that he was actually Mr. America and took his ball and went home because he was upset about his paydays as Mr. America. He did return and was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Match 29, Backlash 2005. I'll have to keep this one short and sweet because you just know WWE hate any footage involving these people. It's just kind of a patriotic type match anyway. Daivari and Muhammad take on HBK and Hogan. This is his big return and the crowd squirt blood in their nappies of happiness. Michaels is the one isolated for almost the entirety of this one. Hogan gets in the ring and bashes the two heels together. He hits a big boot to Daivari, but Muhammad stops the leg drop with a lead pipe to the back. Hogan no-sells it and starts hulking up. Hogan again hits a big boot and again Muhammad is get involved. Hogan gets rid of him as HBK hits sweet chin music and that's how it goes down. The post-match celebrations literally last longer than Hogan's entire involvement in this match. It's probably safe to say Hogan's past it at this point. It's an S. Match 30, Raw, Christian and Tomko. Man, Christian's waterproof blonde entrance music was quality, and they team up with Jericho to take on Cena, Michaels and Hulk Hogan. Hogan looks slightly portly at this point in his career. Now, I was going to give this an S because at this point he's just here so people say, oh wow, it's Hogan. But he does get the win over Tyson Tomko, and I was entertained by the 3 winners dancing with him after the match. It's a C. Match 31, Raw Tag Match, Carlito and Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels and Hulk Hogan. At this point, Hogan is very limited, he mostly just punches. He does hit the big boot to Carlito and throws Kurt out of the ring. Hogan hits the leg drop for a very easy and straightforward win. It's mostly for storyline purposes as Shawn Michaels turns on Hogan after the match. It's an S. Match 32, Raw, Kurt Angle versus Hulk Hogan. Well, Hulkamania seems well and truly kicking, despite the ass kicking that Hogan's been taking on Ring of the Hawk. Hogan beats on Kurt while still wearing his glasses. Then he removes them and his bandana and places them on Kurt. Poor Kurt, Hogan's always trying to give him a makeover. Hogan keeps sending Kurt into the ring poles. Kurt turns it around back in the ring, gets a 2 off a back suplex. Hogan also kicks out the ankle slam. That hulks Hogan up and he tries to hit the big boot but botches it. Hogan's about to hit the leg drop when Shawn Michaels attacks him again and the match is thrown out for DQ. It's a D. Match 33, SummerSlam 2005, Shawn Michaels versus Hulk Hogan. This one is of course famous for Shawn Michaels bumping. It really is a joyful masterclass. Michaels gets sick of bumping for a bit and hits a knee to the gut and starts slowly beating on the Hulkster. But Hogan traps him on the top rope as HBK goes back into bouncing mode. Michaels grabs an eyelash to calm him down, but he can't get going as Hogan back body drops him and smacks him out of the ring. Hogan brings him back to the ring in dramatic fashion. Shawn makes him even angrier as he keeps slapping Hogan, who smacks him out of the ring again. On the outside, Hogan brutally throws him into the ring pole. Hogan tries to ram him into it as well, but Michaels slips out and Hogan smashes his massive meathead. This turns out to be a huge turning point in the match. Hogan eventually fights off a sleeper of a back suplex. Michaels drops him with a flying forearm and he looks to dive. No, he misses his elbow drop. Hogan points with the U, but he can't hit the big boot as instead Shawn flies like a salmon, causing a ref bump. HBK puts on the sharpshooter as a new referee arrives. Not sure why the ref had to be bumped. After a very long time, Hogan makes the ropes. He tries another, which Hogan kicks off, causing a second ref bump. Michaels is now messing with Hogan's nutsack. He smashes Hogan with a chair, and now he does manage to hit his diving elbow drop. Michaels hits the sweet chin music, and the ref wakes up, but only gets a 2. Here comes the Hulk up. Hogan nails the big boot and the leg drop for the 3. It's all good though, because they make friends after the bell. Kind of a weird main event for 2005. It was the best Hogan match for ages, but I'm not sure how much of that is even down to Hogan. It's probably Shawn. It's also probably a C. Match 34, final match, SummerSlam 2006, the Legend Killer Randy Orton versus Hulk Hogan. JR starts out telling us that Hulkamania precedes race and he's loved universally over. Those comments didn't age well. Hogan starts out overpowering Orton much to his shock. Hogan continues beating him around the ring with clotheslines. Orton has enough of that and drags Hogan out of the ring and starts an assault on his leg. That works for a while until Orton misses a diving crossbody. But Hogan misses his big boot and Orton drop kicks him. Nice little transition there. Randy hits the RKO and thinks he's won, but Hogan gets his boot on the rope. Orton starts slipping into a roid rage. Hogan carefully chooses his moment to hawk up. He hits the big boot and the leg drop for the 3. Hogan wins his final match? Was really expecting him to put Orton over it. That seemed like a strange choice. Well, it is rumoured that Hogan tried to gain leverage with the WWE by threatening to have knee surgery right before this match took place. Meanwhile, Randy Orton was slightly in the doghouse after flipping out in a roid rage and trashing a hotel room, so perhaps they had their doubts that Orton was the guy. WWE still wanted to play ball with Hogan. He was meant to face John Cena at WrestleMania, but that fell through, and Hogan would never wrestle for the WWE again. He tried to start his own little company with the Hulkamania tour, which is lost wrestling media, and then he wrestled his final matches in TNA. I actually uncovered the full match he had a day before his last one and made a video about it. Go check that out now, because you probably haven't seen it before. Hogan never got the in-ring send-off fitting of a wrestling legend, which is perhaps a sign that legends had set a date in stone where they would retire and stick to it. That was quite a run. A hell of a lot of matches were the same. I think Kurt Angle, Flair and HBK got the best performances out of him as opponents. There really wasn't a hell of a lot of variation here, but the crowd just didn't care. They adored this man everywhere he went, showing that once upon a time, star power and charisma were more important than wrestling ability. He wouldn't last 5 minutes nowadays. Can you imagine if he had somehow had a match this year? He would have been booed out of the building. Okay, well, there may have been some other stuff involved with that outcome of the booing. Hulk was truly his own worst enemy. He should have gone out in the mid-2000s WWE and kept his name and reputation intact, but unfortunately the last 2 decades damaged his legacy. We've got to shove Hogan a final grade for Ring of the Hawk Season 6. It's a tough one because I will always take popularity into account. The wrestling was not great. Not botchy really, but not very exciting. But he never stopped to entertain the fans. I would be a stupid Hawk not to have him on the Ring of the Hawk roster, but in terms of enjoyment, this video was a bit of a chore to make at times. Other than the WrestleMania match with Rocky, there wasn't really that one match I can point to and say, okay, this was Hogan really trying. It was all paint by numbers. Much like his TNA run, the stuff he did outside of the ring was where he shone, with his bright yellow hair gleaming on the screen. I'm going to shove Hogan a final grade of a C, and that's as fair as it gets, and if you don't agree with that, I'll make you fly like jets.